So a lot of you may or may not have seen Lasha doing a snatch balance from a couple of weeks ago. Physio, Dr. Georgie, potentially one of the strongest physios in the world, I'd imagine.
He'd want to be.
He'd want to be uploading it. He actually would want. I know you're tongue in cheek, but he actually would want
Yeah.
to. So he uploaded it again, the 230 no foot snatch balance on his Instagram, and a phenomenally impressive lift. And we trying to run through some of the reasons why Lasha might have done that, what you can kind of learn from it, and why he might not have moved his feet like you probably should be moving your feet in the snatch balance. So let's get to the first reason why Lasha did a snatch balance, or why anyone would be doing a snatch balance of any form: heaving snatch balance, no foot snatch balance, snatch get push press, overhead squat, any of all that jazz. You know, the bottoms up on the Russians,
Yeah.
where they sit at the bottom, they kind of go into it. So why might you be doing those as an athlete? And Blagoy Blagoyev, one of the best snatchers in the world, snatched 195.5 in competition at 90 kilo body weight. Highest Sinclair snatch ever, I think. So he said snatch balance is his favourite assistance exercise, because he said all you need to do is pull it and then you have it overhead if you can snatch balance it, which I think is downplaying the impressiveness of 195 kilo
Yeah.
0.5 snatch. But ultimately, why might you do snatch balance or any of the variants? And that is overhead stability, to improve overhead stability. Every single one of my weightlifters has overhead squats or some variation of the program, because the vast majority of people don't have good enough overhead stability. The main thing they need from that is to get used to having weights overhead, and snatching in itself is not enough, because you're limited by your ability to snatch, to pull the barbell up, focus on the snatch technique, and so you don't get a lot of time under tension essentially when you're doing the snatches. So you can do snatch plus overhead squats, and some lifters do get that, but there's a more concise, a bit more streamlined way, and a little bit more controlled variables, or controlling of the variables through our walking it back from the rack and doing from the behind the neck or whatever, some kind of snatch balance variants. So stability is the prime mover of those. So we want to do any of those variants. We want to do multiple reps. And then eventually you want to move to a place where you are at least at your 1 rep snatch. Ideally, you'd like to see something maybe 15 kilos above your best snatch. And then after that, then you can kind of look at dropping it or moving back and just getting the multiple repetitions per set kind of stability work done. So 4 to 5 sets of 2 to 3 reps. So like 2 snatch balance and 2 overhead squats, snatch push press plus overhead squat, a couple of reps. So you want to get a lot of time under tension with these, and that's the main benefit from doing stuff from the rack like this. Any variation of the snatch balance. So just a lot of time with that barbell overhead, moving in and out of the overhead squat position with the barbell overhead is the main thing we're looking for with these. But that's one of the reasons. So obviously Lasha is practicing with 230 kilos because he wants to practice this ability with 230 kilos for some very obvious reasons. Obviously, he has already snatched it, or he certainly intends to snatch it.
The next thing then, I suppose, and it's something Gerf pointed earlier, is like getting used to having it overhead, and that getting used to having it overhead will obviously build hugely into confidence. So a lot of people watching this video, you'll remember when you start the weightlifting, or you might be just in your beginning phase of weightlifting, and the snatch balance might have been used as this kind of like confidence tool. In no way is that any different from what a world champion is using it for now. The only difference is the weights are obviously vastly different. So where you might have done it with 30 kilos, or you might have done it with an empty bar as you were warming up, he's now doing it with 230 kilos to get used to the feeling of having that weight overhead, getting used to the feeling and the confidence to be able to maintain that weight overhead, secure that weight as he's dropping into the squat. Then as he stands up, just the small little manipulations that would take to keep that bar over his center mass. Obviously being able to do the weight itself will give him huge confidence. So if he is walking up to 230 kilos when he's in Tokyo, he'll know he will have snatch balanced it. He's probably already snatched it in the training hall.
For a triple.
For a triple. But he'll know he's put that weight overhead. He'll probably be able to do that for multiple reps, and that will give you huge confidence. But the other thing that you can do is he's now able to say, okay, I've secured that weight from a much higher position. So usually when you snatch balance, due to the strength of your dip and drive, you secure that bar at a higher level than you will with a snatch. So with a snatch where you might pull it to this height, with a snatch balance, you're probably pressing it way beyond the level of your shoulders. So you're now able to secure that bar from a much, much higher position. That means the force that's coming down on you from width is much stronger. So now you gain confidence from the fact that not only have I put 230 kilos overhead, but I've also had 230 kilos falling from a higher height, which is putting more force through me, and now I'll be more confident when I go to snatch it.
So now to the little bit of a nuance, and why did Lasha not move his feet, or why can we speculate why he might not have moved his feet on this snatch balance like most people would, and like we'd recommend most people to do? So Lasha wasn't moving his feet on this, very, very likely due to the safety factor. So ultimately, 230 kilos, no matter how strong you are, no matter what percentage of your weight it is, ultimately heavy weights are very heavy for everyone. 230 kilos is a phenomenal weight, an insane weight to have overhead in a snatch grip position overhead and do an overhead snatch with it. So when we are moving our feet, oftentimes at snatch balance, we want to move them because we get some benefits from the timing. A lot of beginners have issues where they don't move their feet very well. Obviously, Lasha doesn't need to practice this, but what he does need to practice is having the barbell overhead. And so when he moves his feet, he's adding a lot of variance to that, or a little bit more variance than you'd probably want for a movement with 230 kilos. So the main reason he's probably not moving his feet is because he wants to make the movement safer. And now that's certainly something you can take into your own account when you're training. But for someone like Lasha, the benefits of him moving his feet on that would be far outweighed by potential for him to have a catastrophic injury with 230 kilos. I think one of the most injury prone lifts besides too much or too heavy squatting is anything in the snatch grip press or snatch grip overhead position with heavier weights. So with maxes beyond their 1RM snatch, anytime I've seen or experienced people have shoulder injuries, it's been with weights that have been pretty heavy. It's in a very extreme position with the snatch grip, so you have a lot of variables with that. So it's a wider grip, you're less stable. You're obviously trying to train that stability, but when we move our feet, we add a lot more variance to that, and that's not something we really want with our elite athlete going to the Olympics in a few weeks when he's got an incredibly heavy weight overhead. But you can still get all of the benefits that he's looking for from the snatch balance without moving his feet when he doesn't need to train the foot movement, essentially, as he obviously has that down to an exact science at the moment. So there's no reason for him to do that. But why might he want to do that, Fitz? Why would he do that if he was a beginner?
So, typically, when we look at not moving your feet in a clean, in a snatch, or in this case in a snatch balance, is some sort of timing factor, right? So you'll get somebody that'll probably start the pull in their catch position, or they'll start the snatch in their catch position. They're dipping and driving, they're practicing that really, really concerted effort to push under, or in this case, press under the bar. When you look at Lasha's case, when it's 230 kilos, there's slightly different things happening with timing that wouldn't be happening with your 80, 90, 100, 120 kilo snatch balance. The main thing that's happening that's different in Lasha's case with 230 kilos versus your 130 kilos is the amount of whip in the bar and how that timing will affect that bar leaving his shoulders, then impulsing some sort of energy down into him as he gets under. So when you look at a bar, when a bar is really, really under a lot of tension or under a lot of pressure, it bends a lot. With 230 kilos moving at the speed his 230 kilos is moving at, it's going to bend an awful lot more. So what you see when people use the whip in the bar to jerk heavier weights, they'll make a really, really strong amortization phase. So when they dip down and stop in the bottom, they're very, very stable in that stop. The bar bends around them in a C. As they drive up, they're chasing that bend. So if you were bending the bar over your shoulders and you were too slow on the way up, that bar would bend back and that would impulse a force onto you. If you're fast enough, however, when you drive back up, that C will remain. And then as you lose contact with the bar, all that energy moves upwards. That's exactly what's happening in Lasha's case here. Lasha is chasing that energy upwards. He's maintaining that bend in the bar. If he was to then move his feet, that's an extra split second where he's moving his feet, and it's very, very likely that bend that's been imparted onto the bar, that whip he has brought into the bar, will then be transferred when he is moving his feet, so he'll have lost contact with the floor. You'll imagine this is just like a spring, so that spring is pushing down on him. If he then goes to move his feet out to the side, it's very likely that energy and that force from the bar, from the whip that's in the bar, will just push down on him a small bit faster. So in the case of 230 kilos and why it's so vastly different from us doing it with 100 kilos is the fact that when he goes to move his feet, there's so much stored potential energy in the bar that it's very important his base is stable, besides all the other facts the timing is just very, very different.
And obviously, most people have very poor foot movement in the snatch. So that's one of the main things people need to be focusing on, is people need to get that extra practice in. I think that 230 kilos might be the heaviest snatch balance on camera. Supposedly, I think Shane Hammond was an American weightlifter. He said he did 250, and I am very impressive athlete, and wouldn't have any reason to doubt him. He snatched like 200 or 195, so certainly possible.
Yeah.
Certainly possible to 250. I think he told Seb that. So, other than that, I think this 230 is the heaviest overhead squat on camera. I think the heaviest I'd seen before that was, any OG weightlifting fans will know, Bahadur Mooli was an Iranian super heavyweight, phenomenal little lifter. There's a video of him doing like 210 for a double or something. So crazy lifting. Obviously from Lasha. I think we all want to see him stand up at 230 kilos overhead at the Olympics. Though.
Absolutely.
The week after next, I think. So in 2 weeks, a bit more than 2 weeks time. So hopefully we'll see an overhead squat with 230 kilos on the Olympic stage.
Hopefully we'll see a 500 kilo total.
Yeah, I think that I'd be happy to 230. I don't know about. Obviously the 500 kilo total would be impressive.
We want the 500.
But
Gareth doesn't think he's going to do the 500.
I don't think so.
Gareth's been really wrong with weightlifting things in the past, though.
I've never been wrong.
You have been wrong.
Except
about
for
the Ilya thing.
Well, that's the one thing I was wrong about. Everything else I've been right.
Huge thing to get
I'm going to
wrong.
hit this out anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Thanks very much for watching. If you could weigh in on the 500 kilo total thing, be interested to see what everyone else thinks, because we've heard from Seb and heard from Zach what they think, but we want to know what you think.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.